All Things Unexplained.
And an M4 carbine bullet goes roughly 2,000 miles per hour. A bullet. Space shuttle goes 17,500 miles per hour.
Whoa. Okay, that's fast.
Yeah. But of course, that has to escape the atmosphere, right?
Right.
The Voyager 1, 38,000 miles per hour. So you're right up there with satellite speeds, you know.
Gosh, that's fast.
But and ICBM, hypersonic missiles, intercontinental ballistic missiles, 15,000 miles per hour.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, that's what makes them so feared, right?
Right.
Is that we've got rockets taking ICBMs, we've talked about this before, up into upper layers of the atmosphere. And then, boom, they would be on you within seconds, right? Or minutes. And can apparently change direction as they go. So, super scary, but this is not even in upper atmosphere. This is in our lower atmosphere, which raises a lot of questions, right? Going 33,000 miles per hour. Holy cow. So, as they say, NASA, Pentagon, they're conducting studies. So there's like, all right, well, Ukraine's going to get that too. Again, this observation of astronomical work. By the way, this apparently started happening as a byproduct of their normal work, which is observing meteors and space invasions of whatever kind of objects, right? It just kind of happened as a byproduct of that. They say the main feature of these UAPs, as we just talked about, are their extremely high speed, and that ordinary photo and video recordings will not capture the UAPs. They talk about having to fine-tune their equipment, shutter speed, frame rate, dynamic range. Again, we talked about there's cosmics and phantoms. We talked about how they named them after birds. Phantoms are super dark, as black can get, really creepy. By the way, I'll just go ahead and say it reminds me of Star Trek. The Klingons cloaking their ships.
I haven't seen Star Trek.
Now you got to, I feel like.
I haven't either, CJ.
Sweetie,
I know who Dr. Spock is.
That's okay. Live long and prosper.
We'll just have to trust you on this one.
But I believe in Bigfoot, Tim.
Squatch Life, y'all. Live long and prosper with Squatch Life. So they say both types of UAPs exhibit extremely high movement speeds. Their detection is a difficult experimental problem. Again, they are a byproduct of their main astronomical work. They use two meteor stations approximately 75 miles apart. Pretty brilliant thing. I do wonder why they only did this in the daytime, though. I wish they would have addressed that. I don't understand.
Well, there's lots of things that they didn't address. Number one, they didn't tell us or speculate as to what they are. They simply told us what they're seeing, that they're seeing lots of them, and that they're very fast, and that there's two types. I mean, if you were to read the whole article, that's what you're going to get from it, right? There's a lot of these UAPs. They're super fast. Figured out. So my question would be, did they start this study before the war in Ukraine or after? Do we know?
No, we do not know. That's a great question. Hold on to that. I'd like to revisit that thought at the end, though, because it's kind of a pretty scary scenario and actually a shocking revelation for me. So please remind me to revisit that. I'm going to pull up figure 1 from the study. And again, as far as I know, unless you actually looked the study up yourself, they didn't present any of these in the news. Here we see 2 consecutive shots of ordinary swift objects. These are the cosmics, the luminous ones.
What are we looking at in the top figure? It's a little blurry.
Yeah, I just think that's a chart. The very top figure is a chart. And then below that, on the left and right, we've got just 2 very bright objects, could be, as far as the naked eye is concerned, stars. Satellites. Facebook user, here we go, says, nighttime lights mess with the camera. You've got that right. and Facebook user, you'll appreciate what the main observatory in Ukraine went through to detect these. So listen to this, anonymous Facebook user. Ukraine's special observation technique. Taking into account the high speeds of the observed objects, the exposure time of their cameras was chosen so that the image of the object did not shift significantly during exposure. The frame rate was chosen to take into account the speed of the object and the field of view of the camera. In practice, the exposure time was less than 1 millisecond and the frame rate was no less than 50 hertz. Frames were recorded in the SER format with 14 and 16 bits. I thought this was interesting. Violation of these conditions leads to the fact that objects will not be registered during observations. To determine the coordinates of the objects, the cameras were installed in the direction of the zenith of the moon. I thought that was interesting. And you know what? Now that I think about it, we may have an explanation for why they did this in the daytime only. Because if you are only seeing these phantoms, these are the absolute black objects. If you're only detecting them because of Rayleigh or Rayleigh scattering, light molecules bouncing or light bouncing off air molecules, would you ever see them at night?
Yeah.
I suppose you might not, right?
Right.
That thought just occurred to me.
Real quick, Chrissy, did you ever uncover the definition of squadron?
I did. Thank you
what
for
did you get?
repeating that. So, the difference between group and squadron is that a group is a number of things or persons being in some relation to one another, while a squadron is obsolete or primarily a square. Hence, a square or a body of troops or a body of troops drawn up in a square.
So it does seem to be sort of a military connection to the use of the term squadron, right?
Yeah.
Would you agree with that?
Yeah.
And again,
Well, in squadron, square, we've got that makes sense.
Well, and I think, for example, you're definitely going to use the word group in relation to, let's say, animals, but you're going to kind of reserve the use of the term squadron for some sort of military event, right? Or military cluster of objects or people. Right? I don't think that you're going to use the term squadron in relation to satellites.
I mean, I'm going to start using it.
Yeah. Well, you know, they do say squad goals. I mean, so this anonymous Facebook user said, so is anyone else doing this with their cameras? That is a great question. And I think, honestly, it all goes back to the validity of this paper. I think that people automatically dismiss it because it's from the Ukraine. I think that if this is valid, then they did provide a roadmap for detecting these objects. And my goodness, if this is a valid paper, it's somebody over at NASA and somebody over at the Pentagon going, hey, y'all, where's our camera people? We got to get on this.
If this is a valid paper, I am certain that somebody over at NASA and somebody over at the Pentagon already knows and that they also have cameras doing the exact same thing.
That's right. And Facebook user says there's a delay of the reflection. They definitely talk about that. I don't know what the delay time is. Here we see figure 2, a group of luminous objects of different brightness against the background of the moon. I thought this was really interesting. And I don't know, you know how sometimes you can see the moon in the sky in the daytime? Is this one of those situations? Because they do say they're only doing it in the day.
So we're looking at the moon, the crescent moon, and we're looking at 2 objects. Is that correct?
That's my understanding. Yes, we see a crescent moon in the
Maybe
picture.
There's more.
Almost like 4. Through night vision goggles. Even though this is supposed in the daytime.
Yeah.
And my eyeballs say I see a lot of bright objects in the sky.
Yeah, I'm seeing more the longer I look, for sure.
Yes. But again, it's supposed to be daytime, so should not be stars. Don't know Don't know what's going on there. All right, this is figure 3 from the paper. A composite image with the bright swifts. These are the cosmics. Segments of straight lines are proportional to transverse speed. Kind of hard to interpret that, but there it is.
Okay. Proportional to, all right.
Yeah, that one was kind of hard to interpret that. I'm going to bring figure 7 back up because it's just fascinating. There's the monolith. That's what I'm calling it. They call it a phantom. It emits no light and absorbs all radiation or light around it. Figure 8 here,
Interesting.
I thought was interesting. This the color charts of the phantom object. And again, this is an object with 0 albedo or albedo. This means that the object is a completely black body that does not emit and absorbs all the radiation falling on it. They say we see it only because it shields radiation in the atmosphere due to Rayleigh or Rayleigh scattering. I thought that was an interesting chart, interesting color line graph there. Anonymous Facebook user says, and we only see the moon due to the reflection of the sun. That's a great point. You see what he's saying there, or what she's saying there?
I'm not sure. No, I mean, yes, I know that, but I'm not sure how that relates to the objects that we're seeing.
Well, what they're saying in the paper, we're only seeing these phantoms because of the Rayleigh scattering effect, right?
Okay.
Which might seem odd, but we only see the moon. I think they're right, because of a similar situation, the light from the sun reflecting off the moon. And these could be the same way. Very good. I wish I knew who this anonymous Facebook user was, but I can tell you what, based on their highly intellectual comments, they
must be related to you somehow.
No, I was going to say they're no friends of ours. no normal listeners of ours. I'm sorry, Bama George. It could be Bama George. It may not. It may not be exhibiting its own light, just reflecting like the moon. I totally agree, and they said that this anonymous user is he. All right, moving on. Figure 9. Maybe it's anonymous brother. I doubt it though.
I'm having some thoughts here.
Okay.
So let's land the plane soon so we can talk.
Sure.
All things unexplained.